Hello and welcome to this Forex Preview at XM.com. We'll be taking a look at the upcoming flash PMI readings for July for the major economies and the potential reaction in the euro, the pound, and the US dollar. I'm Maria Pachurdes, and joining me is lead investment analyst Rafi Boyadjian. So Rafi, on Monday we'll get the flash PMIs for the euro area, the UK, and the US. Can you tell us about how these major economies have been doing lately and what the upcoming data might tell us about business activity in the first half of July? Is the risk of a recession still hanging over these major economies?
Well, Maria, I think we still definitely have recession risks hanging over these economies because we've seen quite a significant slowdown in all the in the eurozone, in the UK, and in the US. The eurozone, of course, has been seeing a more pronounced slowdown. If we have a look at the GDP numbers, they point to a technical recession. But of course, those numbers are skewed by downturn in just a few select countries. On the whole, there's that much of a great deal difference between how these economies are faring. The UK is doing only slightly better than the euro area. The US does have a bit more momentum, but on the whole, the PMIs have been heading south in the past few months, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not we see perhaps a bit of an improvement for July, especially now that inflation has started to come down a bit more rapidly, and the easing of this cost of living crisis might start to boost consumption. Question is, how much of an impact are these PMI figures going to have on the July and August policy decisions of the Fed, ECB, and the Bank of England? We've now heard from policymakers across the board that pretty much all of them support at least one additional rate increase. So what's more at play here is whether or not they're going to signal additional rate hikes, particularly the Fed and the ECB, which are a lot closer to the end of the tightening cycle than, say, the Bank of England. So I think if we do get any surprises in the July PMIs, it's more likely to influence the outlook for rates rather than the July decision itself.
So what reaction are we likely to see in the euro, pound, and dollar from the PMIs, given that investors are now also thinking that the ECB and BOE might pause sooner rather than later?
Well, we have been seeing a rally in the euro and pound. They rallied on the back of expectations that the Fed will pause soon, that the Fed's July rate hike will be the last, and the ECB and the Bank of England will carry on raising rates well after the summer. But now both the euro and pound have suffered a bit of a pullback because following the June inflation numbers for both the euro area and the UK, we're seeing those regions also now starting to see a more significant drop in inflation. So that's put into doubt those hawkish expectations. So should we get impressive numbers in the PMIs for the UK and the euro area, we might see the euro and pound start to maybe potentially resume their uptrend, because it would bolster those expectations that the Fed will be the first to pause. On the other hand, we shouldn't rule out an upbeat set of PMIs for the US either, because after all, the US economy does seem to be doing better still, and we've seen plenty of times before the dollar starting to come under pressure, but then it just manages to make a comeback all over again. So it's going to be interesting to see how those expectations are going to shift from the July PMIs. So I think it's definitely too early to rule out the Fed pausing in July, and so that's something we should be wary about. But also, of course, to an extent, same applies for the ECB and the Bank of England as well, especially the Bank of England, which, although inflation has started to decelerate more quickly in the UK, the Bank of England still has a lot more work to do.
Rafi, thanks so much. And thanks for joining us for this Forex Preview at XM.com.